Julian's ex-girlfriend, Clara, had attempted suicide. He received the call while standing at the scene of my car accident. I lay there, my arm and leg broken, pain radiating through me. He handed me off to his friend, Ethan, his voice strained. "You're stable now. Clara needs me. I have to go immediately." My body ached but my heart fractured. Tears mingled with the blood trickling down my temple. The world swam. Then a warm hand gently wiped the fluids from my face. The hand holding me, supporting my injured form, trembled slightly. "It's okay," a steady voice said. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." Later, much later, after Julian and I divorced, he would stand before me, his eyes bloodshot, and deliberately break his own hand. "Luna," he choked out, "the pain you suffered, I'll repay it." But at that moment, as I was lifted into another pair of arms, my legs had already lost all sensation. Julian had just taken a call, his expression instantly shifting from concern for me to sheer panic. "Clara, don't do anything foolish. I'm coming right now." By the time he'd rushed to my accident scene, I had already been pulled from the wreckage by first responders. I was lying on the cold asphalt, unable to move, blood seeping from a gash on my forehead. After ending his call, he looked down at me, a flicker of what might have been relief crossing his features. "You're stable now," he repeated. His voice rushed. "Clara needs me. I have to go." Without another glance, without a single word of comfort, he turned and sprinted away. Watching his retreating back, a sharp, piercing pain like 1,000 needles stabbed at my heart. I could no longer hold back the despair. Tears welled, mixing with the blood that continued to flow. The next second, a warm hand gently wiped the stinging mixture from my skin. The arms that then carefully cradled me trembled slightly. "It's okay." Voice low and reassuring murmured beside my ear. "Don't be afraid." He held me, shielding me from the harsh reality, until the ambulance arrived. He didn't leave my side, not even after my surgery was over, and I was wheeled into a recovery room. It was 2 a.m. when the anesthesia finally wore off completely, leaving me raw and aching in the sterile silence of the hospital room. I tried to shift, a faint groan escaping my lips. The small movement, however, stirred the person beside me. Ethan, Julian's best friend. Seeing me awake, he immediately went to heat the congee he'd prepared. "You must be hungry," he said softly, his voice a balm in the quiet room. "Want to eat something?" Just as he was about to feed me the first spoonful, the door creaked open. It was Julian. He walked over, took the bowl from Ethan's hand, his expression unreadable. "Thanks, Ethan. You should go home and rest. I can take it from here." Ethan nodded, gave me a brief, concerned look, and then left. I stared at Julian, not wanting him to feed me, yet too weak and broken to move. "Don't move," he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "I'll feed you." His movements were careful, patient, as he fed me the entire bowl of congee. He reached to wipe my mouth, but my phone lying on the bedside table suddenly rang. He picked it up for me. A fragile, trembling voice drifted from the speaker. "Luna, is Julian there with you? Could you ask him to come over? It's so dark in my room and I'm scared." It was Clara's voice. So she was here in this very hospital. Likely in the room next door, I surmised with a bitter pang. I expected Julian to rush to her side. To my surprise, he didn't move. Instead, he replied, his tone firm. "Luna just woke up. I'm with her. If you're okay, try to get some sleep, Clara." Clara sounded genuinely taken aback by his refusal, her voice becoming small and wounded. "Oh, I'm sorry, Luna. I was being inconsiderate." Julian hung up and turned back to me. A fleeting expression of pain, or perhaps guilt, flickered in his eyes. I let out a cold, humorless laugh. "Why aren't you with your precious ex-girlfriend?" He reached for my hand, his touch tentative. "I'm so sorry, Luna. The situation, it was an emergency." I turned my head away, unable to look at him. When I was discharged, my leg was still useless. Julian carried me to the wheelchair. Arriving home, the last person I expected to open the door was Clara. She wore an apron, a bright, almost proprietary smile on her face. "Julian, you're back?" She completely ignored my presence. Julian, however, carried me inside. "Yes. Is dinner ready?" He then turned to me, his tone casual, as if discussing the weather. Clara just returned to the country and had nowhere to stay. I told her she could stay here for a while. A white-hot rage, sudden and unfamiliar, surged through me. The thought of Clara living in my home while I was hospitalized, of Julian returning each night to her company, made my stomach churn with nausea. I turned my gaze to Clara, my voice like ice as I pointed to the door. "Get out." Clara's face registered disbelief, quickly replaced by a look of heartbreaking vulnerability as she turned her wide, tear-filled eyes to Julian. "Luna," Julian began, crouching beside my wheelchair, taking my hand, his voice placating. "Just let her stay for a little while. She'll leave as soon as she finds her own place." My expression remained impassive, my gesture unchanged. "I'll say it again. Get out." Seeing his attempts to persuade me were futile, Clara's eyes instantly welled up. "Julian," she whimpered, her voice thick with unshed tears. Julian sighed, a sound of weary resignation. He rose, took a card from his wallet, and handed it to Clara. "Why don't you stay at a hotel for tonight?" Ignoring her tearful pleas, he firmly escorted her out the door. Dinner had been prepared by Clara. I refused to eat it. Julian called Ethan, asking him to bring something over. But before Ethan could arrive, Julian's phone rang. It was Clara. "Julian, there's someone outside my room. They're banging on the door." "Ah." The line went dead. Julian shot up, ready to bolt. I grabbed his arm. "Julian, don't go." He was frantic. Shoving my hand away without a second thought, he sent me tumbling from my wheelchair to the hard floor. He paused at the doorway, his eyes briefly flicking back to me, just as Ethan arrived. Relief washed over Julian's face. He threw Ethan a grateful look and then rushed out. Once again, it was Ethan who gently lifted me from the floor. My heart felt like a block of ice. My hands trembled as I messaged Julian. "Julian, let's get a divorce." This was the second time Julian had abandoned me for Clara. Yet strangely, not a single tear fell. Ethan stayed by my side, feeding me dinner, just as Julian once had. My hand and leg were still far from healed, and I was a painter. The doctor had warned that if I didn't recover properly, I might never be able to hold a paintbrush again. I was terrified. Even if my leg never fully healed, my hand had to. I was only grateful that when I fell, I hadn't instinctively used my hand to break the fall, instead cradling it protectively against my chest. Ethan watched me, a flicker of an emotion I couldn't quite decipher, pain, pity, in his eyes. "Luna," he asked softly, "are you really going to divorce Julian?" He was a mutual friend, a witness to our entire relationship, from its hopeful beginnings to its bitter unraveling. I nodded, my eyes devoid of any emotion. He said no more. Later that night, Julian returned, his clothes rumpled, his expression dark. He must have just seen my message. He came straight to me, his voice a low growl. "Luna, why do you want a divorce?" I looked up at him, genuinely perplexed. "You don't know why?" His face was thunderous, his words bitten out. "I don't agree." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside, nestled on velvet, was a delicate silver necklace with a crescent moon pendant. He moved behind me, taking out the necklace, bending to fasten it around my neck. The cold metal against my skin made me flinch. He chuckled, a low, humorless sound. "Do you like it? Don't be angry anymore, okay? Divorce isn't something to joke about." I said nothing more about the divorce that night. He eventually helped me into bed. The next day, the household staff returned. Julian left early for the office, instructing the maids to take good care of me. After breakfast, they wheeled me out to the garden to enjoy the sunshine. This garden, once my sanctuary for painting, now felt empty. Unable to paint, I idly scrolled through my phone. My thumb froze as I opened my social media feed. It was a post from Clara. Last night, she had posted a picture of a beautifully packaged necklace. The pendant was a radiant sun. The caption read, "Being your little sun, making your world forever bright." The brand tag on her necklace box was identical to the one on the box Julian had given me. I saved the image and did an online search. When the results appeared, my hand trembled uncontrollably. The two necklaces were from the same designer, part of a set. The sun necklace was the main piece. The moon necklace, the one Julian had given me, was merely a complimentary gift with the purchase of the sun. His peace offering to me was nothing more than an accessory to his gift for Clara. Suddenly, the necklace around my neck felt incredibly heavy, suffocating. My fingers fumbled with the clasp for what felt like an eternity before I finally managed to unfasten it. Without a second thought, I tossed it into a dense patch of flowers. Picking up my phone again, I liked Clara's post and left a comment. "The necklace suits you perfectly." Julian had also liked her post. He would see my comment. A few minutes later my phone rang. "Julian." I declined the call. He called again. I declined again. After several repetitions, the world finally fell silent. Just then Ethan messaged me. "There's an auction this afternoon. I heard that painting you love, your absolute favorite, is up for bidding. Want to go?" Ordinarily, with my leg still injured and confined to a wheelchair, I would have refused. But the allure of that particular painting was too strong. I agreed. When the time came, Ethan was waiting outside. He carefully lifted me into his car. My mind was so consumed with thoughts of the painting that I barely registered Ethan's unusually somber expression. At the auction house, as Ethan wheeled me in, a ripple of hushed whispers followed us. I assumed they were gossiping about my leg, and my hands, resting in my lap, clenched. Ethan, however, seemed unfazed, calmly guiding me to our seats. It was only then that I understood the crowd's reaction. Julian was here. And seated beside him, looking radiant and smug, was Clara. She wore a custom-made, figure-hugging gown, her neckline deliberately exposed to showcase her new sun necklace. Seeing me, both Julian and Clara started. Julian even began to rise, as if to come over, but Clara quickly pulled him back down. Ethan settled me into my seat. The moment I was seated, the whispers behind me intensified. "Isn't that Mrs. Thorne? How did she end up a cripple? No wonder Mr. Thorne isn't sitting with her. She's disabled." A few cruel chuckles punctuated the comment. "Looks like we're in for some good drama today." Everyone was clearly anticipating a spectacle. The subjects of their gossip, however, remained outwardly impassive. The auction began. The first few lots were insignificant trinkets. Neither Julian nor I made any bids. Then, finally, the painting I coveted was announced. I was about to raise my paddle, but someone beat me to it. Clara. She was bidding against me. Julian sat beside her, his expression unreadable. I couldn't discern his thoughts, but I knew Clara didn't have the financial means to bid on items of this caliber. Julian was backing her. Not to be outdone, I immediately countered her bid. Seeing me as her competitor, Clara's enthusiasm seemed to double. 50 million, she declared, her voice ringing with triumph. A gasp went through the room. The auctioneer's voice was electric. 50 million. The lady bids 50 million. Are there any further bids? I met her challenging gaze with an icy stare. I raised my paddle again. 60 million. 60 million. We have 60 million. Any advance on 60 million? 100 million. This time the voice wasn't Clara's. It was Julian's. I stared at him in disbelief. He knew this painting was my most cherished piece. His only response was a glare filled with an inexplicable anger. I didn't understand what he was angry about. All I knew was that I couldn't bid any higher. Ethan, sensing my distress, gently took my hand. "Do you want me to help?" he whispered. I shook my head, my heart a frozen stone. It was clear Julian was determined to acquire this painting today, no matter the cost. With the fall of the gavel, the painting belonged to Julian. Clara, ecstatic, clung to his arm, cooing and preening. The surrounding chatter intensified. "I can't believe it. Mr. Thorne just spent a fortune on another woman, right in front of his wife. Can Mrs. Thorne even hold on to her position? Disabled and without her husband's love, how tragic. Are they getting a divorce? Will that woman beside Mr. Thorne be the new Mrs. Thorne?" A wave of profound humiliation washed over me, my heart clenching in agony. I could hear their words. Julian and Clara could hear them too. Yet Julian remained stone-faced, ignoring everyone. Finally, Ethan, unable to bear it any longer and noticing my distress, quietly wheeled me out. "I'm sorry, Luna," he said as we left. "If I had known it would be like this, I wouldn't have brought you." "It's okay," I managed, shaking my head. "You meant well." Ethan's intentions were good. Those other two were simply vile. When we arrived home, Julian hadn't returned. I contacted a lawyer on my phone and instructed them to draft divorce papers. At 10 o'clock that night, there was a commotion at the front door. Julian was back. He leaned against the doorframe, clearly intoxicated, yet his eyes were disturbingly sober. His gaze, sharp and accusatory, fixed on me. "Since when did you and Ethan become so close?" he slurred. "He took you to the auction? Whose wife are you, Luna?" I was astounded by his audacity, his attempt to preemptively cast blame. I tilted my head back, meeting his gaze directly, a sarcastic smile playing on my lips. "And you? Who did you take to the auction? Whose husband are you?" My voice was dangerously soft. "Before you question me, Julian, perhaps you should examine your own actions." His face froze. Then, after a long moment, he didn't get angry. He laughed, a strange, unsettling sound. "Luna, you're jealous." It was a statement, not a question. I rolled my eyes in exasperation. He crouched down, reaching out to stroke my hair. "Call me husband," he murmured, his voice a low caress. "And I'll give you the painting." So he knew all along. He knew the painting was my target. And because I had gone with another man, he had deliberately humiliated me in front of everyone. Yet, the woman sitting beside him hadn't been me. The simmering anger within me finally boiled over. I grabbed the nearest book and hurled it at him. "Julian Thorne, you are a despicable bastard." The book hit him, but my arm was still weak, so it didn't cause any real harm. His eyes turned cold, especially when he noticed the absence of the moon necklace around my neck. But then, a strange, almost manic glint appeared in his eyes. He touched the spot where the book had struck him, his gaze becoming more intense, more possessive, almost disturbingly obsessed. Just then his phone rang again. The caller predictably was Clara. As he answered, a sudden excruciating pain shot through my injured leg. "Julian," Clara's voice, laced with faux despair, drifted from the phone. "That painting, it wasn't for me, was it? I know. I've caused you so much trouble." A dramatic pause. "I'm on the rooftop now. I just want to see you one last time." The sound of wind howled through the phone. Julian, who had initially seemed disinclined to go, now looked genuinely alarmed. "Clara, don't be impulsive." The pain in my leg intensified, becoming unbearable. I reached out, trying to grab his arm. "Julian, please, can you take me to the hospital first?" "My leg." Before I could finish, he cut me off, his voice harsh. "Luna, now is not the time to compete for attention. Clara needs me more. If she dies, can your conscience bear it?" The agony was so intense that I slumped from my wheelchair, collapsing onto the floor in a heap. After uttering those cruel words, Julian rushed out, not even sparing me a backward glance. It was one of the maids, hearing the commotion, who found me and rushed me to the hospital. Ethan arrived again well past midnight. My leg, aggravated by the emotional turmoil and the fall, had worsened. The doctor stood before my bed, his expression stern. "If you had arrived any later," he said gravely, "your leg might have been beyond recovery." A chill of fear ran down my spine. Julian, who had apparently received news and rushed over, heard the doctor's words. He hurried to my bedside, his usual composure replaced by a rare, flustered panic. "Thank you, doctor. We'll be more careful in the future." "Are you her husband?" the doctor asked, frowning. "The man who was caring for her here before didn't seem to be you. Regardless, her hand and leg injuries are severe. She requires diligent care." Julian, looking uncharacteristically chastened, nodded. After the doctor left, he turned to me, his eyes filled with a worried concern. He stammered, clearly at a loss for words. I'm sorry, Luna." I closed my eyes, unwilling to look at him. He reached out as if to take my hand, then remembered its injury and stopped. "Julian," I said, my voice soft but firm, "let's divorce." My eyes opened, meeting his. "You've abandoned me for her time and time again. If you like her so much, I'll grant you your wish." "No, Luna. We can't divorce." For the first time, this usually stoic man seemed to lose control. He reached for me again, his touch surprisingly gentle, almost desperate. "Luna, Clara has depression. We were together once. I can't just stand by and watch her die." I snorted, too weary to argue. "I'll send you the divorce papers later. We can get it finalized when it's convenient." A steely resolve hardened my voice. "If you don't agree, you will never see me again." Julian stared at me, stunned. He hadn't expected such decisiveness from me, but he knew I meant it. He couldn't risk calling my bluff. He nodded, his shoulders slumping in defeat, and then began a litany of apologies. He was still apologizing when Ethan arrived. I asked Ethan to remove Julian. Julian, however, shook off Ethan's hand. "You can divorce me," he snarled, pointing a trembling finger at Ethan, then back at me. "But you cannot be with him." I mirrored his earlier cool detachment, watching his meltdown with a strange sense of calm. "Who I'm with is none of your concern, Julian." My voice was even. "Besides, I never abandoned you for Ethan." My words struck him like a physical blow, effectively silencing him. He stood there, seething, unable to utter a single word. Ethan eventually managed to escort him out. I thanked Ethan, then, utterly exhausted, body and soul, I fell asleep. During my subsequent hospital stay, I finalized all the divorce proceedings with Julian. The day I was discharged was the day our divorce became official. He pushed my wheelchair, intending to take me home one last time. I refused. Ethan then took the wheelchair from Julian's grasp. In the passenger seat of Julian's car sat Clara. Her eyes were swollen and red. Even now she was still acting. "I'm so sorry, Julian," she sobbed. "It's all my fault that you and Luna divorced." On that point, at least she wasn't wrong. Julian didn't respond to her. Instead, he stared in the direction I was leaving, his gaze fixed and unblinking for a very long time. My hand eventually recovered enough for me to hold a paintbrush, though I couldn't paint for extended periods. A national art competition was announced. With time on my hands during my convalescence, I decided to enter. To my annoyance, I saw Clara's name on the list of participants. Though I hadn't practiced for a long time due to my injuries, and my initial attempts felt clumsy, my foundational skills were strong. Within 5 days, I was close to my usual level. Moreover, the tumultuous experiences I'd endured had profoundly shifted my perspective, infusing my art with a newfound sense of clarity and release. I had a month before the competition deadline, ample time to prepare. I poured my heart and soul into a piece for a full month, only breathing a sigh of relief when I finally submitted it. By the day the results were announced, I could walk again, albeit with a slight limp. Ethan accompanied me. As fate would have it, we ran into Julian and Clara at the venue. Julian saw me and started to approach, but then he noticed Ethan and hesitated. Clara quickly pulled him away. Julian's gaze, however, remained fixed on me until I entered the auditorium. Half an hour later, the award ceremony began. As the rankings were announced, the corresponding artworks were displayed on a large screen. Clara won 3rd place. When her artwork appeared on the screen, my eyes widened in shock. It was my painting. Ethan, noticing my reaction, leaned over. "What's wrong? Is there a problem?" "That painting," I whispered, my voice trembling with disbelief and rage. "I painted that." "What?" The ceremony continued. Clara, beaming, took the stage to give her acceptance speech. "And finally," she concluded, her voice saccharine sweet, "I want to thank Julian, who has always supported me. Without him, I wouldn't be here today. Thank you, everyone." She even had the audacity to cast a provocative glance in my direction. The 2nd place winner was announced. It wasn't me. Ethan looked at me with concern. I gave him a reassuring glance. Sure enough, I was awarded 1st place. When the result was announced, Clara's eyes filled with a venomous envy. Julian, on the other hand, looked towards me again, a strange hint of pride in his gaze. As my painting was displayed, a fresh wave of applause erupted from the audience. "Wow, this painting is absolutely breathtaking. Yes, it evokes such a sense of serenity and liberation. Truly deserving of 1st place." The whispers from the audience reached Clara's ears, and she gritted her teeth in fury. "Doesn't anyone else think the 3rd place painting looks remarkably similar to the 1st place one in style?" someone mused. "Hey, now that you mention it, they really do." Yes, I knew something felt off. Clara, seeing her deception was about to be exposed, jumped to her feet, pointing an accusing finger at me. "Plagiarism." I accused the 1st place winner, Luna Song, of plagiarizing my work. Her outburst stunned everyone into silence. The host quickly intervened. "Miss, accusations like these require evidence." Clara, struggling to suppress her panic, snorted contemptuously. "Whether it's plagiarism or not, the judges can determine that by examining the paintings." Her voice gained a false bravado. "Besides, I have a witness. Julian, you can testify for me." Luna Song's hand was injured recently. She couldn't possibly have held a paintbrush. She turned to the audience, her voice ringing with self-righteous indignation. "She hired a ghost painter, and even copied my style, didn't she?" It was as if by speaking first, by shouting loudest, she could make her lies true. Julian looked taken aback by this turn of events, his brow furrowing. Clara, stop this nonsense. He tried to de-escalate the situation, but Clara was relentless. What? Why are you afraid to speak? Guilty conscience, perhaps. She turned back to me, her voice dripping with scorn. I demand an immediate apology. Then I might consider forgiving you. If you claim you didn't plagiarize me, then prove it. I listened calmly until she finished, then spoke, my voice clear and steady. You're the one accusing me of plagiarism. Therefore, the burden of proof lies with you, not me. If you cannot provide evidence, then your accusation constitutes slander, and I can sue you. My gaze hardened. But today, all I ask is that you kneel and apologize to me, in front of everyone. A flicker of panic crossed her face. She tugged at Julian's sleeve, seeking his support. Julian, however, ignored her. Ultimately, the judges meticulously compared the two paintings. Their conclusion: the style and technique were indeed very similar, but they couldn't definitively confirm plagiarism based on visual inspection alone, as the subject matter differed. Only experts comparing other nuanced aspects could make such a determination. When the result was announced, I turned to Clara. Well, missin'? So brave in your accusations, so cowardly in facing the consequences? Where did all that confidence go? The audience began to murmur discontentedly. Yeah, wasn't she the one yelling about plagiarism? She can't even produce any evidence, just making a scene. Shameless. Clara's face grew paler and paler. Her grip on Julian's arm tightened. Julian, noticing her distress, stood up to support her. His eyes filled with disappointment as he looked at me. Luna, Clara has depression. That's enough. Then why didn't you stop her when she was baselessly accusing me of plagiarism and slandering my name? I retorted, my voice cold. She brought this upon herself. Besides, I added, my gaze sweeping over them, you know perfectly well whose painting she submitted. My words caused an uproar. Clara promptly fainted. Clara! Julian cried, catching her. The scene descended into chaos. Order was only restored after Clara was rushed to the hospital. That night I compiled all the evidence. The painting Clara had stolen was coincidentally my graduation project. The proof was irrefutable. When I released it online, any lingering doubts about what had happened vanished. I heard Clara was still unconscious. She would wake up to a world that had collapsed around her. The competition organizers officially revoked Clara's third-place prize and disqualified her from future participation. The rankings were adjusted accordingly. Having dealt with everything, I was about to go to bed when the doorbell rang. It was Julian. If you're here to talk about Clara, I said, my voice flat, then I suggest you leave now. I moved to close the door. He blocked it with his hand, his expression desolate, his usual arrogance replaced by a rare, cautious vulnerability. Luna, I'm sorry. His voice was a hoarse whisper. I miss you. I frowned, unsure what he was trying to achieve. Seeing my resistant posture, a flash of pain crossed his eyes. Julian, I said, my voice devoid of emotion, we ended the moment you slept with Clara. He started to say something, then froze, his body rigid. Yes, he had cheated. Clara herself had told me, in a moment of malicious triumph. His current reaction was all the confirmation I needed. My mind flashed back to his proposal, him on one knee, uttering the most beautiful vows. The sweetness of the past mingled with the bitter acidity of the present, like a rotten date, leaving a foul taste in my mouth. Julian was truly panicking. When Clara had returned, he had, admittedly, been captivated by her. She was, after all, his first love. A genuine, heartfelt love from his youth. That was why his resolve had wavered. That was why, when Clara had her episodes, he had felt compelled to abandon his injured wife and rush to her side. The scales in his heart had long since tipped in Clara's favor. I was never one to settle for less, to accept a compromised love. Yet, because of the depth of our past connection, even when I was broken and bleeding, I had hesitated, clinging to the last vestiges of warmth. Thankfully, Julian's cruelty had been thorough enough to finally sever those ties, allowing me to break free. Now, whenever I saw him, another image would superimpose itself. The image of a sincere, gentle man, Ethan, with his quiet smile, his voice in my memory urging, "Don't forgive him." Julian crumpled. His tall frame slowly sank to the floor, kneeling before me. But even if you kneel and beg, Julian, I will not forgive you. Julian, please leave. He left. My life returned to a semblance of peace. I blocked him and Clara on all platforms. Clara, I imagined, would be frantic when she awoke. To my surprise, Julian made no effort to help Clara navigate the scandal. Later, Ethan returned from a business trip and invited me to dinner. I accepted. At the restaurant, I noticed Ethan seemed troubled. What's wrong? I asked. He put down his chopsticks, wiped his mouth. Luna, he said, his voice grave. Your car accident, it wasn't an accident. I froze, my blood running cold. I had never once suspected foul play. Julian found out. Ethan continued. Clara arranged it. The truth hit me with the force of a physical blow. A monstrous, consuming hatred welled up inside me. Apparently, the day Julian had left my house after our confrontation, he had unleashed his fury on Clara. He had screamed at her, almost unhinged. Why did you come back? Why did you have to tell Luna about what happened between us? Why? His voice was raw with anguish. If it weren't for you, Luna would never have left me. I did so much for you. Why did you have to destroy everything? Clara, already reeling from the public humiliation and the loss of the competition prize, couldn't bear his accusations. Her emotions exploded. Julian Thorne, it was you who couldn't control yourself. Why? Are you blaming me? She shrieked. Did I force you to cheat? Weren't you a willing participant? You scumbag. You deserve this. I should have arranged for you and Luna Song to die together in that accident. After her outburst, Clara realized what she'd said. She frantically grabbed Julian's hand. Julian, I'm sorry, I was just too upset. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Tears streamed down her face as she tried, once again, to elicit his pity. But Julian had latched onto her words. He flung her hand away. What did you say? He demanded, his voice dangerously low. Luna's car accident. You planned it? You venomous, evil woman. He slapped her hard, then had her restrained while he investigated. He discovered the truth and promptly sent Clara to prison. He also found out that her depression was another fabrication. All her manipulations had only fooled him. When he appeared before me again, I slapped him with all my strength. Julian, I choked out, tears of rage and pain streaming down my face. I almost lost my ability to paint because of her, because of you. Julian's heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. He trembled, remorseful tears finally falling. Julian, I said, my voice cold and final, don't ever come looking for me again. I'm leaving this place. In this life, may we never meet again, living or dead. May we never meet again, living or dead. The words echoed with a bone-deep hatred. Julian looked as if all strength had been drained from him. He raised a hand as if to reach for me, then let it fall heavily to his side. Luna, he whispered, his eyes filled with tears, yet a broken smile touched his lips. No matter what, I love you. His love felt like a disease, a poison. It meant nothing. I left that city, that life behind. 2 years later, I was lounging on a sun-drenched beach, the warmth seeping into my bones. Suddenly, a figure appeared beside me. I looked up, shielding my eyes. How did you know I was here? I saw your social media post. And you followed me? Ethan nodded, a faint smile playing on his lips. I came to tell you. Julian is dying. A beat of silence. Question mark. After you left, he went off the rails. Drank himself into oblivion day and night. No one could stop him. He was diagnosed with stomach cancer last year. Not only that, but even knowing he was sick, Julian hadn't stopped drinking. He continued until his body simply couldn't take it anymore. Now his time was short. When drunk, Julian would hallucinate. He'd imagine I hadn't divorced him, that we were still living together. He'd imagine the scent of me still lingered on the bedsheets, that traces of my life still filled the villa. Sometimes he'd see me standing before him, smiling, but when he tried to embrace me, I would vanish. Then he would descend into madness. Last week he finally collapsed. He was confined to a hospital bed awaiting death. The story was undeniably tragic. After recounting it, Ethan turned to me, his gaze serious. Do you want to go see him one last time? There isn't much time left. He could go at any moment. The straw I was chewing on stilled between my lips. I hesitated. When I finally saw Julian, I barely recognized him. He was emaciated, his skin pale and waxy, tubes protruding from his frail body. This was a Julian I had never known. He had always been handsome, a charismatic figure, a campus god in his youth. Now not a single strand of hair resembled the man he once was. He was asleep, but his brow was deeply furrowed, a testament to the pain that tormented him even in his dreams. I sat beside his bed. He opened his eyes. His gaze, initially empty as he stared at the ceiling, slowly focused on me when I softly called his name. The lifelessness in his eyes flickered, then rekindled with a faint spark. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but no sound came. I offered him a small, gentle smile. He smiled back, a tired, weary smile, and a single tear traced a path down his gaunt cheek. He closed his eyes, still smiling, and then he was gone. The monitor beside his bed emitted a long, flat tone. A tear of my own escaped, falling silently. Medical staff rushed in, attempting to revive him, but their efforts were futile. Ethan entered shortly after, gently pulling me into his embrace. Together, Ethan and I handled Julian's funeral arrangements. Standing before Julian's gravestone, Ethan looked at me, his expression complex. "Do you still hate him?" I shook my head. "I don't hate him anymore. But I will never forgive him." A small, knowing smile touched Ethan's lips. "He knew you well. He knew that even in death, you wouldn't forgive him." He paused. "He also asked me to take good care of you. Funny, considering how jealous he used to be." I smiled too, a genuine if melancholic smile. "But every time he abandoned me, you were the one who helped me." My voice was soft. "I'll never forget your kindness. If it weren't for you." "All right," he interrupted gently. "There's no point in saying these things." He turned to face me fully. "Luna," he began, his voice hesitant but sincere. Would you consider giving me a chance?" "What?" I asked, confused. "Actually," he confessed, a faint blush rising on his cheeks, "I've liked you for a very long time, even before Julian. But your attention, it was never on me. Just when I was about to confess my feelings, you and Julian got together." He looked down, then met my eyes again. I often wondered, what did I lack compared to him? Perhaps I was too timid, and that's why we missed our chance. He took a breath. "So, after all these times I've helped you, can you finally see me?" I was stunned. I had never suspected his feelings. I wanted to refuse, but the words wouldn't come. Can you give me some time?" I stammered. This is a lot to take in." He seemed to have anticipated my reaction and didn't press. "Okay," he said, his voice gentle. "I'll wait." After helping me settle Julian's affairs, he joined me on the round-the-world trip I had planned long ago. From then on, my world, once shattered, began to be rebuilt, and every new landscape, every new horizon, held the quiet, steady presence of Ethan.